Anxiety is the most common of all mental health issues, and it's been steadily increasing since the 1950s. We all experience anxiety from time to time, but it becomes known as panic when it reaches a more extreme level. When a feeling of panic gains momentum, it can turn to what is known as a panic attack. Hi everyone, I'm Trevor Sullivan of Sullivan Associates Clinical Psychology, and today I'm going to talk about how to cope with a panic attack. Before we get started, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. And if you're on YouTube, click the alert notification. That way, when we release more videos, you'll get notified. If you've ever had a panic attack, I don't need to tell you how unpleasant they are. For those who've never had one, it'd probably be helpful to give a quick definition. As we get further into the video, I'll provide a more detailed description of the physiological and psychological symptoms involved in a panic attack. But for now, I'm going to borrow a definition from the Mayo Clinic and massage it a bit for our purposes. A panic attack is defined as a sudden episode of intense fear that triggers severe physical reactions such as increased heart rate or shortness of breath, and there's no real danger or apparent cause. It's those last few words of that definition, the severe physical reactions with no apparent cause, that often make panic attacks particularly frightening for people. When panic attacks occur, you can also experience severe psychological reactions, such as the fear of losing control, having a heart attack, or even dying. Today, we'll walk through a few steps that will hopefully help you to catch the signs of a panic attack relatively early and work through the discomfort as quickly as possible. So for our first step, it's important to identify what thoughts, feelings, or situations are most likely to contribute to a panic attack. This is likely different for everyone, but as with most things in life, it tends to be clues and patterns. For instance, it can be that whenever you focus on something that creates fear or concern, such as struggles with finances, concern about yourself or a loved one contracting COVID, or fear of the unknown about what the future holds, this may trigger feelings of panic. So if you ever had a panic attack, a good place to start is to think back, see if there are any patterns to watch for that can be making your anxiety worse. Second, it's important to know what signs and symptoms of a panic attack are. For many adults, the first time they've had a panic attack, there's a fear that it could be a heart attack. It is uncommon that they end up at the hospital. And after a quick EEG, people typically find that it wasn't a heart attack, but instead a panic attack. So how do you know what symptoms to watch for? Especially when you consider that feeling anxious is highly variable and can result in a number of different symptoms. With most anxiety measures, there are 9 common physical symptoms to watch for and 5 psychological signs. Let's start by looking at the most common physical symptoms. These are increased heart rate, shortness of breath, tightness in the chest, upset stomach, shaking, sweating, hot flashes. I'm aware those last 2 sounded like menopause. Numbness, and feeling dizzy. And the most common psychological or mental signs of a panic attack are feelings of panic and uneasiness, feeling of dread, fear of dying, a feeling of not being connected to reality, and a fear of losing control mentally. None of these symptoms are too pleasant, so it's understandable why someone can have a pretty strong fear-based reaction. And to be clear, to have a panic attack, you don't need to experience all of these symptoms, although people often experience many of them. Based on my experience with clients over the past 20 plus years, most people have a few telltale physical and psychological symptoms that typically occur when they have a panic attack. And according to a 2011 study by Dr. Allison Moret and colleagues, the 2 main symptoms you want to watch for are increased heart rate and shortness of breath. These are the 2 signs that people tend to notice first. And that's what's most important here. You want to pick up on these initial symptoms as soon as possible, so you can begin to try and prevent, or at least minimize, the severity of a panic attack. For the third step, the goal is to begin calming the body. The best way to do this is to change how you breathe. When people are becoming anxious, it's common to take short, choppy breaths from high in the chest. Instead of this, you want to begin to take slow, deep breaths from your diaphragm or belly. One way to help you do this is to place both your hands in your stomach, interlock your fingers, breathe in slowly while blowing your stomach up like a balloon. For anyone who does yoga or plays a musical instrument, this is the same style of breathing. If you haven't tried breathing this way before, it can feel a little strange to start, but you'll get the hang of it. It isn't important to do this perfectly, but instead, the goal is to simply do your best to take deep breaths from the diaphragm instead of taking shallow breaths from high in the chest. Once you get a feel for how to breathe from your stomach, I'd suggest picking a breathing pattern that's comfortable for you as long as it involves slowing down your breathing. For instance, you could try breathing on a 3-3-3 schedule. That means taking a breath for 3 seconds, holding it for 3 seconds, and exhaling for 3 seconds. Suggest repeating this breathing pattern 10 times before returning to breathing normally. If you find breathing this way to be calming, feel free to return to it as often as needed. With deep breathing, the goal is to lower your heart rate and blood pressure, as both become elevated during a panic attack. And if you catch your symptoms early, you might be able to largely avoid the uncomfortable physiological symptoms of a panic attack. If you don't catch the symptoms early, deep breathing is still worth doing, while the goal needs to be to try and help minimize the physiological symptoms. Because once your brain has released a large dose of adrenaline, the chemical that leads to much of the uncomfortable symptoms that you experience in a panic attack, the goal is to hang on for the ride and to avoid the panic attack from becoming worse than it already is. For our next step, the focus is on calming your mind. What you say to yourself in your mind is critical at this stage, as it will likely influence whether the panic attack gets better or worse. For example, your self-talk at this stage is something like, "Oh my God, I can't stand this. I'm completely freaking out. There's nothing I can do about it. The panic attack is probably going to get worse." And yes, for anyone who's ever had a panic attack, I'm well aware I just gave a very PG version of what you actually say to yourself in your head when you're having one of these. So the goal at this stage is to have phrases that are calming to say. It's usually best to figure these out ahead of time, as it's difficult to come up with calming phrases when you're in the middle of a panic attack. I'm going to give you a couple examples here, but ideally, you're going to come up with the best phrases that work for you. So a couple of examples of calming phrases could be, "I can handle this," "I've had this feeling before, these feelings will go away soon," or "It's just a wave, what goes up must come down." And essentially, that's what we're after here. The goal is to ride the wave of anxiety. It will rise to a peak and eventually fall. For most panic attacks, the worst is usually over in 10 to 20 minutes. More severe panic attacks can last a little longer, but like all bad things, they eventually come to an end. For our fifth step, I encourage people to get moving whenever possible. During a panic attack, the brain releases large amounts of cortisol adrenaline, and the sooner you can reduce the levels of these hormones, the better. As I mentioned earlier, it's the adrenaline that gives you that uncomfortable feeling during a panic attack. If you can get moving after you take the initial steps of calming the body and mind, physical activity can help to reduce both cortisol and adrenaline, which will help you to work through the most uncomfortable parts more quickly. For best results, the more intense the exercise, the better. And for my sixth and final step, if you're unable to get moving, or you're continuing to experience some of the uncomfortable physiological symptoms of a panic attack, this would be a good time to engage in positive distraction. Initially, I thought positive distraction was my term, and I was planning on taking full credit for it in this video. Figured I'd do a quick Google search beforehand, just to make sure that I had it, and lo and behold, somebody beat me to it. So as defined by HKS Clinical Solutions and Research, and not Trevor Sullivan, positive distraction is the environmental feature that elicits positive feelings and holds attention, without taxing or stressing the individual, thereby blocking worrisome thoughts. It's quite a mouthful, but essentially it's what we're after here. So much more simply put, the goal is to find something positive to do to help you occupy your mind while your body works through the rest of the excess adrenaline that's causing uncomfortable feelings. Because what you focus on influences how you feel. Focusing on feeling anxious or trying to make sense of anxious feelings at this point will likely be counterproductive. So when it comes to positive distraction, I'm a fan of two specific activities, but you can try many different things here. First, I suggest finding something cognitively demanding or interesting to do. This could involve playing a game, watching a show or video, or if you're at work when this happens, simply focusing on the job at hand. Second, have a conversation with someone about a relaxing or neutral topic. Regardless of what topic you pick, talking with someone can help you to get through the worst part of a panic attack, which is usually the first 10 to 20 minutes. After that, you can continue to experience uncomfortable feelings for some time, and the goal essentially is to engage in something positive while you ride it out. All emotions are like waves, so what goes up must come down. So to provide a quick recap, first, be aware of potential triggering thoughts, feelings, or situations that can lead to feelings of panic. The goal isn't to necessarily avoid these thoughts, feelings, or situations, but to modify your approach in managing them. Second, watch out for the physiological and psychological signs of a panic attack. Most people have a few telltale signs that they experience, so you want to identify these signs quickly so you can use strategies to help manage them. For my third step, calm the body with deep breathing. Essentially, you want to select any breathing pattern you're comfortable with. It allows you to slow down your breathing, pull in air from your stomach. Fourth, I suggest using relaxing self-talk to help calm the mind. How you talk to yourself after the initial symptoms of a panic attack will help to determine whether it gets better or worse. Any calming statements that will help you to feel safe and in control will be beneficial. For my fifth strategy, whenever possible, get moving. Physical activity, especially demanding physical activity, help to reduce adrenaline levels, which is the hormone responsible for the uncomfortable feelings in a panic attack. Even as little as 10 to 15 minutes of activity can help. And for my sixth and final step, if you continue to experience symptoms of panic at this point, use positive distraction. Positive distraction can involve any activity that will help to occupy your focus in a way that doesn't promote worry or doing something harmful or counterproductive. Engaging in something cognitively interesting or demanding, or having a conversation with someone about a relaxing or even neutral topic are two examples. So I hope you found these strategies helpful for coping with a panic attack. If you did, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel by clicking the subscribe button below. And if you ring the bell, you'll be notified the next time we release a video. And of course, feel free to like and share the video, as well as leave a comment. If you're experiencing challenges implementing the steps in this video, please contact us at Sullivan Associates Clinical Psychology. Thank you for watching.